I didn't find out because someone confessed. I didn't catch them in bed. I didn't even suspect it that morning. I found out because my phone vibrated while I was standing in line for coffee, and a charge popped up with my name on it. A luxury boutique. Hundreds of dollars. Women's clothing I would never wear. At first, I thought it was a mistake. Then I saw the location. My stomach dropped, because that store wasn't near my house. It wasn't near my mother-in-law's house either. It was across the street from a hotel my husband once claimed he accidentally booked for a work conference. My hands went cold. Not angry yet, just cold. I opened the banking app again, slower this time, scrolled. Another charge from earlier that day. A salon, an expensive one, then dinner. A restaurant I had asked my husband to take me to for years. He always said it was too overpriced. And suddenly, nothing made sense anymore. I told myself to breathe. To think logically, because accusing family without proof makes you look crazy. So I did the one thing I wish I hadn't done. I opened social media. And that's when my entire marriage shattered in silence. There she was. A woman I had seen before, smiled at, invited into my home. My husband's coworker? The one he said talked too much. The one he rolled his eyes about whenever her name came up. She was standing in front of a mirror, wearing the exact dress my card just paid for. Same color, same designer tag still hanging from the sleeve. In her hand was a shopping bag. I zoomed in. The boutique logo stared back at me like it was laughing. My heart started racing. I scrolled. Another photo, this time at a restaurant. Candles, wine glasses. A caption about being spoiled. And there, barely visible in the reflection of the window, was my mother-in-law, smiling, sitting across from her, holding a menu like she belonged there. Like this was normal, like this was family. My knees nearly gave out. Not because my husband was cheating, but because his mother was there, helping, supporting, funding it, with my credit card. Memories rushed into my head all at once. Her fake concern. Her comments about how I worked too much. Her constant praise of women who were more attentive to men. All those moments I brushed off as harmless. They weren't harmless. They were warnings. And I ignored every single one. I stood there in public frozen, while strangers ordered coffee around me. No one knew my world had just ended. No one saw the humiliation crawling up my spine. I wasn't shaking from heartbreak. I was shaking from rage. Because betrayal hurts. But coordinated betrayal, that rewires you. I realized in that moment that this wasn't an affair. It was a project. A team effort. A mother helping her son replace his wife. And suddenly, everything inside me went quiet. No tears spilled, no dramatic reaction. Just a single, terrifying thought forming clearly in my head. They think I'm stupid. They thought I'd keep paying, keep trusting. Keep smiling, they thought I'd never notice. They were wrong. And as I stared at that notification again, my thumb hovering over the screen, I understood something that would change everything. This wasn't going to end with me crying. It was going to end with silence. And regret. On their side. Before that notification, I truly believed my marriage was struggling in a normal way. Not perfect, not terrible, just tired. We had been together long enough for routines to replace romance. Long enough for conversations to become practical instead of intimate. I blamed work, stress, life. I never blamed betrayal. My husband wasn't cruel. That's what made it harder. He wasn't loud or violent or obviously distant. He was calm, predictable. Which meant when something felt off, I told myself I was imagining it. His mother, though, was different. From the moment I married into that family, I felt like I was being evaluated, not as a person, but as a role. Was I obedient enough, supportive enough, quiet enough? She never confronted me directly. She preferred subtle cuts. Little comments at dinner, comparisons to other women, questions that sounded innocent but carried judgment. Do you always work this late? Men need attention, you know. My son gets lonely. My husband always laughed it off. She doesn't mean anything by it. So I swallowed my discomfort. When she started calling more often, it felt like desperation. She talked about money problems. About medical bills. About how hard it was to be alone at her age. I wanted to help. That's the kind of person I am. She praised me whenever I did something for her. Called me the good one. Said I was different from other wives. I didn't realize those compliments were conditional. One night, my husband came to me with that familiar worried look. "Mom's embarrassed to ask," he said. "She just needs a little help for a while." He suggested adding her as an authorized user on my credit card. Not his mine. "It's just easier," he said. "She won't overuse it." I hesitated, something in my chest tightened. But then he looked hurt, like I had questioned his loyalty. So I agreed. At first, everything looked normal. Groceries, pharmacy runs, gas. She even thanked me every time, text messages full of hearts and gratitude. I felt proud, useful, like I was finally being accepted. Then the charges slowly changed. Better grocery stores, branded items, beauty products. When I asked, she laughed it off. Just treating myself once in a while. My husband defended her instantly. "She deserves it." That's when I started noticing the other changes. My husband became more distant, more protective of his phone, more irritated when I asked simple questions. He started criticizing things he never cared about before. How I dressed, how I spoke, how I prioritized my time. His mother echoed those criticisms. "You used to try harder," she once said casually. I thought marriage counseling would help. He refused. I thought vacations would help. He was always busy. I thought patience would help, so I kept giving. Money. Understanding, space. What I didn't realize was that while I was trying to save my marriage, they were slowly stepping out of it. Behind my back, on my dime. Every charge on that card wasn't just money. It was practice. Practice in excluding me, practice in replacing me, practice in treating my trust like a resource to be drained. And by the time I finally saw the truth, I wasn't just heartbroken. I was embarrassed. Because the signs were always there. I just never thought the people who called themselves my family would be the ones holding the knife. The moment I stopped pretending came later that night. I didn't confront my husband right away. I didn't slam doors or throw accusations into the air. I watched him. He came home like nothing was wrong, kissed my cheek, asked what was for dinner. His voice sounded normal, too normal. While he talked about traffic and work drama, my phone sat on the counter between us, face down, buzzing softly with notifications I hadn't opened yet. Every vibration felt like a lie tapping me on the shoulder. I waited for him to say something. Anything. A slip. A crack. Nothing came. We ate dinner. He laughed at a joke on TV. He asked me about my day. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't a mistake. This was a routine. After dinner, he showered, left his phone on the couch. He never did that. My heart started pounding so loud, I was sure he'd hear it through the running water. I told myself this was wrong. That privacy mattered. That trust mattered. Then I remembered the boutique receipt. The hotel location, his mother's smile reflected in that photo. I picked up the phone. My hands weren't shaking anymore. They were steady. That scared me. The screen unlocked easily. Same passcode he'd used for years. He hadn't even bothered to change it. Messages were neatly archived, hidden but not deleted. There she was, weeks, plants, jokes, complaints about me. "She doesn't get you like I do. Mom thinks you deserve better. She's too focused on work. She wouldn't understand." My chest tightened, but I kept scrolling. Photos followed. Hotel rooms, dinners. Her wearing things I now recognized. Then I saw the message that broke something permanent inside me. "Don't worry," his mother had written in a group chat. "I'll take care of everything. She won't suspect a thing." That was it. That single sentence erased every excuse I had ever made for them. This wasn't a secret affair fueled by impulse. It was approved, encouraged, financed. I put the phone back exactly where it was. When my husband came out of the shower, I looked at him and felt nothing. No love, no anger. Just distance. Later that night, he reached for me in bed, routine affection, familiar hands. I moved away. "I'm tired," I said. He didn't push. He never did when it mattered. I lay awake in the dark, staring at the ceiling, replaying years of my life through a new lens. Every argument that ended with me apologizing. Every moment his mother undermined me. Every time I felt like I was competing for my own husband's attention. I wasn't paranoid. I was surrounded. Around 3 a.m, my phone buzzed again. Another charge. Breakfast, 2 people, same restaurant from her posts. That's when I knew. If I stayed quiet any longer, I wasn't being loyal. I was being complicit. I imagined confronting them both, imagined screaming, imagined demanding answers. But none of that felt right. Because they didn't deserve my emotions anymore. They had already taken enough. I sat up in bed. The room completely silent except for my husband's breathing. He slept peacefully. The man who had betrayed me with my own family's help. And in that moment, something inside me hardened into resolve. Not revenge fueled by rage, but revenge built on clarity. I wasn't going to expose them. I wasn't going to beg. I was going to let them feel exactly what they had done to me. Slowly, quietly, and without warning. That night wasn't when my marriage ended. It was when my fear did. And once fear is gone, everything else becomes very easy. By morning my mind was clear in a way it had never been before. No racing thoughts, no shaking hands. Just a calm, steady focus. That's how I knew this wasn't an emotional reaction. This was a decision. I didn't wake my husband. I didn't check his phone again. I didn't even look at his face. I made coffee, packed my bag, left the house like it was any other weekday. On the drive to work, I thought through every option. Confrontation would give them power. Public exposure would turn me into the villain. Messy revenge would stain me in ways I'd never wash off. I didn't want drama. I wanted consequences. The kind that arrive quietly and hit hard. I started with facts. At my desk, I pulled up my credit card account and exported the full transaction history. Dates, times, locations. Patterns emerged instantly. Weekdays during late meetings. Weekends when he claimed to be helping his mom. Hotels booked through third-party sites. Restaurants always followed by boutique purchases. This wasn't impulse spending, it was scheduled. I created a folder on my computer and named it Nothing Emotional. Just numbers. I saved screenshots of social media posts before they could disappear. I compared timestamps. Matched outfits to charges. Every coincidence vanished. What surprised me most wasn't how angry I felt. It was how methodical I became. I consulted a lawyer during my lunch break, not to file for divorce. Not yet. Just to ask questions. What responsibility did an authorized user have? What happened if a card was revoked? Who was legally tied to which charges? The answers were simple and powerful. Authorized users weren't innocent passengers. They were accountable. I thanked the lawyer and walked back to my office with a strange sense of relief. That night, I acted normal. I asked my husband about his day. Listened to his stories. Nodded at the right moments. I even smiled. He had no idea I was already gone. Over the next few days, I prepared quietly. I moved important documents into a private folder. Updated passwords. Opened a new bank account in my name only. I didn't drain joint funds. I didn't take anything that wasn't mine. Because I wasn't trying to win emotionally. I was trying to stand clean when the dust settled. I waited for the right moment. Not when they were home. Not when they were suspicious. I waited for a day I knew would hurt. A day when the card mattered. The following Thursday, my husband told me he'd be working late and helping his mom run errands. I smiled and wished him luck. At exactly noon, I checked my phone. Nothing yet. At 12:17 p.m., the notification appeared. A high-end department store. That was my moment. I didn't hesitate. I called the credit card company and asked to speak slowly, clearly, and calmly. I need to revoke authorized user access and cancel the card immediately, I said. They asked why. I didn't give them a story. I don't recognize these purchases, I replied. That was true. They weren't made for me. The representative warned me about inconvenience. I smiled to myself. That's fine. When the call ended, I sat back in my chair and exhaled for the first time in days. No fireworks, no confrontation. Just a switch flipped. From enabled to ended. I imagined the moment the card would be declined. The confusion, the embarrassment, the sudden panic. I imagined my husband scrambling for explanations. His mother searching for excuses. And I felt nothing but peace. Because real revenge doesn't announce itself. It doesn't threaten. It doesn't yell. It simply removes the ground beneath people who were standing too comfortably on your trust. And once that ground is gone, they fall on their own. The first call came sooner than I expected. My phone lit up with my mother-in-law's name while I was still sitting at my desk, staring at the wall in front of me. I let it ring. Not because I was scared, but because I wanted her to sit in that moment a little longer. The second call came less than a minute later. Then a third. I imagined her standing at the register, purse open, confidence slipping second by second as the cashier politely tried again. "Sorry, ma'am. It's still declining." I imagined the people in line behind her, the heat rising in her face, the sudden realization that something was wrong. Then my husband called. "That one," I answered. "Did you cancel the card?" he asked, skipping any greeting. His voice was tight, controlled, the voice he used when things weren't going according to plan. "I don't know," I said calmly. "Why?" There was a pause. "My mom's at a store," he said. "She's trying to pay and it won't go through." I could hear movement in the background, a woman speaking sharply, a cashier's rehearsed apology. I leaned back in my chair. "Which store?" I asked. Another pause. Longer this time. "Ah, department store," he said. Where?" I asked gently. His breathing changed, just slightly. "Why does that matter?" he snapped. That was when I knew. So I said it. "Is it near the hotel?" I asked. "Or the restaurant you took her to last week?" Silence. Not the kind where the call drops. The kind where the truth finally catches up. I heard my mother-in-law's voice then, sharp, panicked. "Give me the phone," she said. Her tone was different now. Not superior. Not dismissive. Afraid. She said my name like she was reaching for a lifeline. "Sweetheart," she started. "There must be some mistake." I didn't interrupt her. She kept talking too fast. About embarrassment, about misunderstandings, about how this wasn't the place for family issues. I let her run out of words. Then I spoke. "There's no mistake," I said evenly. "The card was cancelled." She inhaled sharply. "You can't do that," she said. "We were in the middle of." She stopped herself. "Too late." "In the middle of what?" I asked. More silence. My husband tried to take the phone back, but she held on to it. "You're overreacting," she said. Her voice trembling now. "This doesn't mean anything." That's when the other voice cut in. The mistress. Angry, humiliated. She didn't know I was listening. "I told you this would happen," she hissed. "What am I supposed to do now?" That sentence landed heavier than anything else. Because in that moment, everything was exposed. Not just the affair. Not just the money. But the assumption that I would always be there. Paying, fixing, absorbing the damage quietly. I ended the call. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I simply pressed the button and put my phone face down. An hour later, my husband came home early. He didn't slam the door. He stood in the entryway like a stranger. His face wasn't angry, it was pale. "Can we talk?" he asked. I looked at him and felt nothing. "No," I said. "There's nothing left to explain." He tried anyway. Excuses first, then apologies, then promises. His mother called again and again. I ignored every attempt. Because the execution wasn't about humiliating them publicly. It was about letting them feel the exact moment control slipped out of their hands. That sharp drop in the stomach. That realization that the person they underestimated was no longer participating. They had planned everything carefully. Just not this. And as I watched my husband sink into the couch, head in his hands, I understood something important. The revenge wasn't canceling the card. The revenge was forcing them to face the truth without my help cushioning the fall. No safety net. No explanation. Just consequences. The silence after everything collapsed was louder than any argument we ever had. No shouting matches. No dramatic scenes. Just space. My husband stopped sleeping in our bedroom that night. He moved to the couch without asking. Like someone who already knew the answer, but was afraid to hear it out loud. Over the next few days, the truth surfaced in pieces. Not because I demanded it. Because without money smoothing the edges, nothing held together anymore. His mistress disappeared first. She stopped replying to his messages, unfollowed him, deleted photos. I imagine the moment she realized the comfort she thought was stability was actually borrowed. People like that don't stay when things get inconvenient. My mother-in-law tried to regain control. She came to the house unannounced, eyes swollen, voice shaking. She didn't apologize, she explained. She said she was protecting her son, that she only wanted him to be happy, that I was too independent, and made him feel small. She talked for nearly an hour. I didn't interrupt. When she finished, I asked one question. "Did you ever plan to tell me?" She looked away. That answer was enough. The legal part moved faster than the emotional one. The credit card company ruled the disputed charges as the responsibility of the authorized user. Not me. My mother-in-law was left staring at statements she couldn't deny. Designer clothes she couldn't return. Hotels she couldn't explain. A lifestyle she couldn't afford without me. She started paying it off monthly. Slowly, painfully. My husband tried to save what was left. He cried, he promised therapy. He blamed his mother, then himself. But every apology felt late, like he was reacting to consequences, not remorse. I filed for divorce quietly, no social media posts. No announcements. Just paperwork and signatures. The day I moved out, he stood in the doorway and asked if there was anything he could do. I looked around the house that had never truly felt like mine. No, I said. You already did everything. Life after that wasn't instantly peaceful. There were nights I questioned myself, moments of anger, moments of grief. But there was also something new. Lightness. No more second guessing. No more financial anxiety masked as generosity. No more trying to earn loyalty from people who saw me as a resource. Months later, I heard through mutual connections that my ex-husband moved back in with his mother. That the tension between them was constant. That money was tight. That resentment had replaced loyalty. Because when you build relationships on convenience, they collapse under responsibility. As for me, I rebuilt quietly, new routines. New boundaries. A life where trust wasn't something I had to prove I deserved. Sometimes, I still think about that day in the coffee line. That single notification. How small it looked on the screen. How massive it was in my life. If I could speak to the woman I was before that moment, I wouldn't warn her. I'd thank her. For trusting her instincts when it finally mattered. For choosing dignity over denial. For understanding that walking away clean is the sharpest revenge of all. Because the truth is this, I didn't ruin their lives. I simply stopped paying for their lies. And once I did, everything they built on my silence collapsed exactly the way it deserved to.